after the cycle of a dishwasher ends, you open the door and the plates are still like absolutely soaking. A little bit of dampness is expected, but just soaking wet. What would you start to look at to diagnose for that?
Yeah, so you definitely want to start out with like the kind of good habits of a dishwasher. So
Hmm.
I think we had talked a little bit earlier about putting some vinegar in, putting some vinegar in a cup,
Uh-huh.
letting that run through because that does help to clean the dishes and to dry the dishes.
Hmm.
You want to make sure that your rinse aid is not empty, and you want to make sure that it's turned up to max. So on your dispenser, there's usually a little cap that'll untwist, and you'll see kind of a little indicator in there from like 0 to max or 0 to 5. And you could just stick a little screwdriver or something in there. You got little fingers, you could just turn it up. Make sure that's full. You want to turn the water on at your kitchen sink on hot, and make sure that you're pretty close to 120 degrees. That's usually 120 degrees is you could stick your hand under there for a second or two and it's too hot and you got to pull it out. That's about 120 degrees.
Right.
Those are a lot of the big things because the hotter the dishes get during the wash, the better they dry.
I would have initially, started thinking that would have been some sort of a drainage issue or maybe spraying too much or something. But it's interesting to know that it often or could be solved by just checking your rinse aid, checking that the water's getting hot enough and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. If you do all that and all that's good and it's still not drying the dishes, it is typically a heating element issue. If your water's hot coming in, it may do a decent job of cleaning, but it doesn't dry that well. So to check the heating element, there's a couple of different ways. Unfortunately, the terminals to actually check it with a meter are usually in the very back of the dishwasher, so it's really hard to get to without pulling out. But if you do pull your dishwasher out, it's easy to access it. All you do is just set your meter to the resistance setting and put it on each terminal, and you should get some kind of reading. It's going to be anywhere between, say, like 4 to 14 ohms, and your heating element's good. If you measure it and it's completely open, you don't have any kind of reading, heating element's definitely bad. And at that point, if it's pulled out, it's super easy to change, and we're talking, $20 to $50 usually for a new heating element.
Yeah, you'd think it would be one of the more expensive elements because it's, I guess heat is always one of the more expensive parts to run. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
great that you can often find one for quite cheap.
Yeah. The only time that it can get expensive is your, LG and your Bosch and brands like that. On a lot of them, they've started incorporating the heating element literally built into the wash pump assembly. So if you have a dishwasher, when you open the door and you look inside, if you cannot see a heating element, it's one of the dishwashers where it's incorporated. And, again, you can still check it, but yeah, if it's bad, then you may want to call somebody to come and change that whole assembly.
And that one, if it is all like tied in together, might be a little harder to get to for, it might be a bit more expensive, I would imagine, or...
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's going from a, 30 to or 20 to 40, $50 element to a whole wash pump heat assembly, which, just the part itself, $180 to $450 maybe.
Yeah, and then plus
Yeah.
any labor and stuff, again, could be
Oh, yeah.
one of the, might be better to go new option.
Yeah, because technicians, when it comes to those brands, they will usually charge a little more just because they're a lot more difficult to work on.
Yeah. Makes sense.